The Shuttered Pane by Rupert Pembury. It was the business of a misplaced key, if I recall, that took me to the rectory in mid-October, a time of year when the trees about our part of Wiltshire seem most determined to drop their leaves upon every path I must walk. The key, though vital, is of no consequence to the story. What matters is that I arrived quite alone, rather later than intended, and with every expectation of having the house to myself. The Reverend, an old college friend, was in Derbyshire with his sister, and the housekeeper had, it seemed, left that morning for a funeral in the next county. A note left upon the hall table, in an unsteady but kindly hand, explained her absence, and welcomed me to make use of the green room, sir, as it's the least damp. I did so without complaint. The room was cold but pleasant in an austere, bookish fashion, its windows facing the overgrown garden, and a peculiar little folly that I do not remember from my earlier visits. It looked, even in daylight, like the sort of place one might find a stone angel slumped in melancholy. I built a fire, ate a supper of bread and cheese in solitary state, and retired to the green room by 9. It was then that I noticed the shutter. One window, the smaller of the two, had a single heavy wooden shutter drawn firmly closed across it, not from the outside, as would be expected, but within. It was bolted, and the brass catch bore scratches that spoke of frequent use. The other window, larger and overlooking the same tangled garden, remained unshuttered. The inconsistency puzzled me, and, I admit, I felt the faintest unease. There was no draught, no sign of damage, no indication of disuse. But something about the shutter's determined presence gave me pause. I was not, let me say this plainly, the sort to invent disturbances where none existed. But that shutter and its latching mechanism, worn shiny from use, gave me cause to look once or twice over my shoulder that evening, even as I read one of the Reverend's endless books on the Latin Fathers. The strangeness began, as it always seems to in these tales, with a sound. It came just before midnight, a sort of tapping, light, rhythmic. At first, I assumed it to be a tree branch stirred by the wind. But the larger window, the unshuttered one, remained untouched. Nothing scraped its glass. The air outside was quite still. The tapping continued, soft, insistent, from behind the shutter. I confess I did not rise at once. There is something deeply disagreeable in confronting a noise for which one has no reasonable explanation. Instead, I sat in the green armchair, spine stiff, listening. I remember the sound of the fire settling, the tick of the clock on the mantel, and then 3 slow knocks. Not taps, not scratches, knocks. Knuckles, if I were to guess, against glass. I stood at last and crossed to the shutter. My hand hesitated over the catch. The knocks came again. Slow, patient, deliberate. I did not open it. Instead, I turned the key in the lock and placed one of the room's heavier armchairs in front of the shuttered window. I slept poorly, fully clothed, the fire low, and my candle kept burning to the stub. In the morning, there was no sign that anything had been amiss. I opened the shutter with due caution. The window beyond was intact. The garden, grey and sodden, was empty. I left that afternoon and told the Reverend nothing, though I did ask him, some months later, why one window alone had a shutter. "Oh," he said vaguely, "you mean the green room? Always had that shutter. Don't use it much these days, though old Mrs. Lawton always insisted it be closed at night." "Mrs. Lawton?" He gave me a curious look. "Housekeeper before Mrs. Dent. Died in that room, poor soul. Stroke, or so they said. Dent would never sleep in there." He paused, as if weighing the value of a passing thought, then added, "Odd thing was, when they found her, she was lying right beneath the window, the shutter wide open. The first time anyone had seen it that way in years. That was all, but I dream, now and again, of those slow, deliberate knocks, and I never sleep in a room with a shutter drawn closed from the inside."